People are joining. Welcome to our webinar today, Building the Digital Path to Responsible AI for Public Employment Service. This is a collaborative webinar between WCC and the World Association of Public Employment Services. We are today live here in the beautiful town or city of Utrecht in the Netherlands, in the live studio of WCC. And you see that the four of us are here, but we have also some presenters joining us online today. So Nicole Clovis, some of you might know me already. I'm a consultant seconded from the German Public Employment Service to the World Association of Public Employment Services. I will be leading you through today's webinar together with my colleague from WCC, Deville.
Hi, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am Davila Makotianaita, Employment Domain Specialist from WCC, responsible for product management and pre-sales activities. And I'm happy to welcome you all. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you, Deville. You can see in the chat that there is some practical information. We will have interpretation today, so you will be able to listen in French and Spanish. Also pay attention to the resources. There's presentations also for you if you want to listen in your dedicated language that you feel the most comfortable with. So please go ahead and open the resources. You will find everything over there. So in short, in a nutshell, what you can expect today, we will give a global overview on public employment services worldwide, a little preview on what we have been doing. And then we will have also great speakers today from Malaysia and Costa Rica joining us. And then we'll also talk really about the ethical requirements in public employment services. Yeah, so also very, very pleased to announce the speakers of today, which are Mr. Dr. Willem Peterson here to my left. He's a strategic researcher and consultant who will start us off with the first presentation with the state of digitalization and artificial intelligence in public employment services worldwide. And then we have Dr. Alexander Hogenboom. He works for WCC as the Chief Technology Officer at the WCC Group. And you will talk us a little bit through to responsible artificial intelligence and how public employment services can leverage data and artificial intelligence in the transformation state. And then, like I said already, we have online joining today Mr. Mohammed Farou Razi, who goes by Razi, and he will be presenting today also Perkeso, which is the public employment service of Malaysia, and will talk us through Malaysia's digital transformation journey also. And last but not least, we have Ms. Vanessa Gibson. She's joining us today from Costa Rica. She's the Director of Investment Climate at CINDA. And she will share Costa Rica's experience with preparing the workforce for the future using AI-enabled solutions. So I would like to give the word over to Willem Peterson, who's a real expert, because when I had to prepare a presentation last time talking about digitalization, and artificial intelligence, I came only across most of your stuff, and I really could really well prepare with the research that you have been conducting. So we're super pleased to have you today with us and give you the word over to you for the global overview.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm very, very, very happy to be here because I've been doing this work for almost 15 years working with PES, and it's always great to be talking to an audience and have the discussions. And hopefully we can have that today over the next 2 hours. If my clicker is working, which it is. I'm just going to try and set the scene a little bit today for this webinar. And what I'm going to be doing is give a little bit of background. If we're talking about digitalization and digital transformation, what are we talking about? And subsequently, give a short overview of where are we today on a very high level. And this is a preview from some survey research that we're currently doing together with WAPES and the IDB and the OECD. The World of PES, a global survey investigating the status of what PES are doing around the world. And it's got some digitalization stuff in there. So we have a little sneak preview of that. Then I'm going to talk about another project that I've been doing with the European Commission in the PES network, where we studied the use of AI within public employment services. So we have some insights there on what public employment services have been doing in the last couple of years around AI with some learnings. And then I'm going to close with some implications of that and some reflections that will hopefully set the scene for the discussion today. So let's start with this background. And we're talking about digitalization and we're talking about technology and AI, but what I would like to put front and center is that this is not about digital tools. It's not about digital itself. It's always about the relationship between government agencies, in this case, that's PES or Ministries of Labor, and their customers. That is our focal point. And these customers, they could be job seekers or employers, they have some kind of relationship with the Public Employment Service, whether they need a job or whether they need employees or whether they need benefits. There's always this relationship. And I like to see digitalization as a tool to improve or change that relationship or make it as efficient and effective as possible. So, of course, our starting point to make sense of digitalization is technological developments. And we've been there, we've done that because we know that technology is becoming increasingly important in our lives. We get more and more technologies. Think about interaction channels. So we used to have a phone and email and website, and now we have digital apps and we have social media and we might have chatbots. So we get more and more technologies. But what's even more fascinating is that these technological developments are going increasingly fast. So we get more technologies quicker and quicker and quicker. So 10 years ago, nobody was talking about AI. And now we have a plethora of different AI tools. So that goes very fast. So we need to keep up with that. But this could also lead to increasing technological fragmentation, different organizations using different tools in their back offices and different clients using different tools and channels to interact with public employment services. And that could lead to inequality or less inclusion that we might desire. So these technological developments always go hand in hand with developments in society on the other hand. And some of these developments are directly related because technology could lead to societal change. But at the same time, societal change could lead to more demands from technology. So what we're, for example, seeing in society is that people are increasingly mobile. We travel more. We have a global economy where people can also work from whenever they want. And that has led to technological demands because now we want Wi-Fi on airplanes so we can keep working while we're traveling. So we get increasingly location independent people. People are more flexible in their behavior. We don't stick with one employer for 20 years anymore, and we might not stick with one relationship anymore during our lives, but we're constantly changing and seeking out new opportunities. So increasing flexibility and switching, plus, and that's something that we've been seeing recently, speed in which life is evolving and people needing instant gratification in life, that's also taking off. So a lot of people on social media wanting instant gratification. And that is in tandem with technological developments. And the intersection of these two, societal change and technology, is what we then call the digitalization of society. So we have this increasing digital society with tools not just impacting our daily lives, but impacting everything that we do. So our relationships that we have as customers with governments is changing. And let's not forget about that last central ingredient, which is data. So data is increasingly everywhere, and we cannot separate that from technology. Technologies create data, but technologies also allow us to process that data and do useful stuff with it. So things such as AI are only possible because we have all that data and we have the technologies to make sense of that data. So for me, technology and data and subsequently AI go hand in hand. And then lastly, and that's, I think, very relevant for us, digitalization obviously also affects labor markets. And there's 2 points to that. The first is labor markets themselves, where we see automation, robotization, and we see different kinds of working arrangement because people become more mobile and become more flexible. So we get new jobs, we get job replacement, we get people in alternative working arrangements, but we also, again, have these concerns about equality and inclusion in labor markets. Because do I still have the right skills to work in the labor market, or does something else need to happen? And am I included in that whole process? But it also affects, obviously, what public employment services are doing, because PES need to deal with automation themselves and they need new skills in their organization. So things are changing. And I think the key lesson here for me is twofold. The first is we need to realize that technology is not just about buying tools and implementing new channels. It is an increasingly important and strategic topic for PES because it touches upon everything that we do. And that means that we need to develop strategies, capabilities, and knowledge across all those areas that affect what we do. And that makes it more strategic because we need to have that higher level lens to assess the proper impact of technology. But we also need to fully understand the impact of this digitalization as a key factor of change of labor markets. So do we as PAS have the skills to assess what's happening in labor markets? And do we have the technologies to proper work in these labor markets as a key player? So it is an increasingly strategic topic, but do we have digital strategies, and what are PAS doing in this field? Like I said, a little preview of the new edition of the World of PAS book that's coming out next year, with a few questions in that survey that we did, this global survey about digitalization and digital strategies. We had 78 PAS around the world responding, so this is a nice sample of what's happening around the world. And what's happening in those countries of where the PAS operate. Do they have a national digital strategy? So do the central governments have a strategy in place to deal with digitalization? The answer is sort of yes. About 50% of all PAS do this, or the countries in which they operate. But PAS themselves, do they have a digital strategy that looks forward and deals with these technological changes? A little bit less so. About a third of all PAS do that. Another third have this under development, and the rest, not yet. So there's room for improvement here. But if you have that digital strategy, do you then also have clear goals for your PAS of where you want this to go and what your objectives will be in the next couple of years? And the picture here is similar. Some PAS have it, about a third, but the remainder do not have this in place yet or are still working on this. So again, we see very clear room for improvement, even though obviously some PAS already do this. But overall, I think this is an area of opportunity for PAS to improve, and hopefully as a community, we can do that together. We can go a little bit deeper and look into various aspects of the PAS. So do PAS have back office digitalization strategies? Well, not yet. They do have IT-wide IT systems, at least most of the majority of PAS do this, but a strategy to keep on working with new technologies and adopting new technologies and bringing these new technologies in the organization, that is clearly not yet in place yet for the majority of PAS. Again, for me, an opportunity area. And then lastly, what about data? Do we have a data strategy where we define KPIs and goals for the organization and measure and track that the things we are doing are the right things? Again, not yet. It's not yet in place. We're developing these things, but we're not quite there yet. And lastly, and that's how we're bridging this story to AI, do we have a data strategy? Because everybody wants to work with AI, as we will see a little bit further on in this presentation and the rest of this session. But if you want to make AI a success, you need data. You need to extract data from all your systems, and you need data governance. And there's a lot of stuff that you need to do about, Alexander, the next speaker, will be talking about that in a little bit. So you might want to have a clear data strategy. And some PAS do this. About a third of all PAS have this in place. But that leaves us with the 2/3 of PAS that are either developing this or have nothing in place yet. So hopefully today we'll provide some insights that can help PAS do this a little bit more. Having that said, we're slowly bridging this to AI. AI is, like I said, it's this new topic, and everybody is excited about AI. Everybody wants to use ChatGPT to, find information and improve your own life, your personal life, but also within PAS. I did some work with the European Commission in the last 2 years where we try to look at initiatives that PAS in Europe are developing and the lessons they've been learning from AI. We decided to not have a very formal definition of AI because there is no universally agreed definition of AI. And Alexander, our next speaker, will give some inputs of elements, core elements of such a definition. But we were very interested in what exactly are PAS doing with their data, and what kind of tools are they using and what kind of algorithms are they using? So for us, it makes sense to rather not focus on a formal definition of AI, but look at the types of analytics that they're deploying. So we created a little model where we say, analytics is this ever-shifting field, and AI is not something that's static. It's a moving target. Because 10 years ago, we thought of machine learning and recommender tools as the very advanced stuff in AI that was available. But right now we're talking about large language models. So we're shooting at a moving target. So we came up with these 5 generations of analytical tools that can help us understand what's happening in the space and where it's headed. And this started about 30 years ago with very basic statistical analysis, because that's what we were doing with data back then. And then about 10 years ago, we started doing what we now call advanced analytics. We started having supervised machine learning algorithms. We did some basic deep learning. We built recommender system using these analyses. We called that an AI then, and now we call it more advanced analytics. Given today's trends and today's developments, we're now in what we can call ANI, or the artificial narrow intelligence, the third generation of analytical developments. And we're now in that era of, we have foundation models, we have large language models such as ChatGPT that really make sense of large amounts of data, and that there is an unsupervised element about this. These algorithms can train themselves and can organize data themselves and make sense of data without any type of supervision. And that's where we are right now, because we're sort of making inroads in the next generation of technology, and multimodal large language models are an example of something we call artificial general intelligence. We have so many inputs and so many data sources that a machine can start approaching the cognitive intelligence of humans. And that's what we call AGI, or artificial general intelligence. And in the far, far, far future, we'll move to artificial super intelligence. And that's where the machines are smarter than us and they will take over the world, and we get Skynet-esque situations in our lives. But obviously, we're not there yet. So what are PES doing, and where are we? Well, in practice, we see that the majority of the initiatives that we found across the European Union, and we found about 34 different applications, most of these applications are not very advanced yet. Most of these applications fairly fall in the sort of advanced analytics bucket. They are machine learned models that typically do things such as provide recommendations, or do profiling, or create segmentations, or perhaps suggest a limited number of actions. So by far, the most applications are in that advanced analytics bucket. But we see some very cool stuff, and we see that across all the initiatives that we analyzed, that yes, there are PES that are working with large language models, that are adopting OpenAI and competing models and competing applications to really start being more cutting edge in the things that they do. But then what are they doing with AI? Well, we see that across the activities of what typical PES do, there's a nice little distribution of activities going on here. So we see a lot of profiling. And profiling for me is sort of the gateway drug into using AI within PES, because it's, at the start of the process, there's no connections to something that comes before. We typically are collecting data from job seekers as they come in with us. So we have a nice little data source to use when we use advanced analytics or AI. And typically profiling tools are used by counselors rather than job seekers themselves. So there's always this filter of the counselor that can make sense of whatever it is we're doing and provide recommendations to a job seeker. So lots of profiling. We see some initiatives in matching where, matching is hard. So AI seems a very logical area to start exploring AI and how we can improve matching. But by far the most tools we find in career guidance. And that's another one of those areas where career guidance is typically something that a counselor does. So it lives in the background. So you have tools for counselors that can then be used to guide job seekers. So exploring labor market opportunities, finding information, finding relevant courses, and doing skill improvement programs, that kind of stuff we find here. And then lastly, we have a sort of leftover bucket where we have labor market information. Now we're going to learn more about labor market information in a little bit from Malaysia, but also fraud detection tools that are being used to make sure that benefit recipients don't commit fraud. But obviously our main goal was to learn more about stuff that is sort of happening in the background. What are the learnings from those AI experiences? And in the main report, we list 10, and I've tried to condense that into sort of 5 key learnings for today. First of all, AI it's very much emergent. We're excited about this. We're not super advanced yet, but developments are going fast. But we're also seeing that PES tend to adopt sort of standalone applications. We either do a profiling tool, or we do a matching tool, or we do a career guidance tool. Very few PES are thinking about the entire customer journey and how AI could support such a customer journey. That's why I think that Costa Rica's story in a little bit is so inspiring, because they've been doing that. To think a little bit less about the silos and more about the integration. PES so far are very much focused on learning. the actual outcomes and the business value is less important than building AI knowledge. And I think that's smart because we need to develop AI skills and AI expertise within PES, so that focus on learning makes sense. But at the same time, the sort of black box nature of AI sometimes makes that challenging because algorithms are complicated. Nobody really understands what's happening in a lot of AI tools. So making sure that we learn the right things and that the applications are transparent and that we can replicate findings, that obviously creates challenges and then requires us again to develop new skills. What we're also seeing is that the results are very positive. PES are excited about AI and they get very positive feedback from job seekers, from counselors or their leadership, but very few PES actually measure results. And that ties in nicely to the outcomes of our World of PES survey that, having KPIs, having clear goals, that's not something that PES typically do, but it could really help them to make new decisions about AI and properly evaluate its impact. But what we do know is that stakeholder involvement is critical for success. So roping in your job seekers and getting their feedback, involving counselors in development processes and getting your leadership on board, those are the things that make or break the success of any AI initiative. Another key finding that I found very interesting is that, exploring AI it's easy. It's not that hard to go online, get an account with OpenAI, upload some data or tweak a model, and then start playing with that. So doing a POC or a pilot with AI is fairly easy. But putting it into production and keeping it into production, that is really hard. Making sure that you have the data systems connected, that you extract all your data in real time, making sure that you train your employees properly, making sure that you have the buy-in from everybody, and making sure that you update your algorithms and that you have security in place. All that stuff that is part of keeping or productionalizing AI and keeping it in production, that's challenging. And that's also challenging because we, again, don't have those data strategies or the digital strategies that would guide such a process. So exploring is easy, production is hard. And I'm almost at the end, but I want to end up at a sort of positive note because the future is looking bright. PES are excited about this, and we're seeing all these initiatives popping up beyond the EU all over the world of PES, playing with AI and seeing the potential of AI, because the potential absolutely is there. But I do think we could do a better job at, having those data strategies in place, data governance in place, and measuring a little bit more that the things we're doing are the right things and provide value for our clients and organization. And that brings me to my sort of general conclusion, because I believe that PES are at a crossroads. So far, we've been treating digitalization as, the process of making products and services digital, and we're doing that fairly randomly. We're picking a process and we make it digital. And now we're doing the same thing with AI. We're going to make profiling better by throwing AI at it, and we're making matching better by throwing AI at it. So far, we're generating value from trying to integrate data and digital and AI into existing processes and flows. And that's very typical for digitalization. But experts in the field are saying, if you really want to benefit from all these technologies and technological change and being able to resist, the increasing speed of technological development, maybe what you need to start doing is, rather than taking all bureaucratic processes and making those digital, maybe you need to start rethinking your organization and your processes with the knowledge and the expertise and the tools that are available today. And that's what we call the digital transformation, where you really start transforming the entire organization, and AI fits in that. So maybe we are at this crossroads where we need to stop thinking about integrating data and AI into existing processes, but we need to start clean slate and think about what a PES could look like if we were to do it anew right now. And I'd love to invite everybody to engage with us and think about what that could look like, because I think that could be a very important and relevant and fruitful discussion to have to build the PES that is future ready and resilient. And I'm right on time, and I'm through my slides. I'm going to end with two links. The first is the QR code, and I think we're also going to put a resource link in the chat. The first is the PES AI study that I did with the PES network here in Europe and funded by the European Commission. And secondly, I'm linking you to the first edition of the World of Public Employment Services, the book organized by the IDB, the OECD, and WAPES here in the room. The first edition from 10 years ago, because the second edition is coming. It's not out yet. So this was a little bit of a teaser for the book project, hopefully in Q1 next year, but we'll keep you posted. And as soon as WAPES has anything to report, we'll get back to you with the second edition of the World of PaaS. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Willem, also for giving us the guidelines and also the links to the publications that you have been doing. And yes, of course, we'll keep you updated on the publication and the launch coming up next year. So I think really the essence here is really that we understand for all of us, this means really a big shift, a big change for public employment services. Like you said, a big digital transformation. And you've really shown us also from basic statistical strategy going to where possibly all or the majority of organizations and public employment services are really using digital transformation and artificial intelligence in a certain way that really structures it. And I understand it's really important what you said in the beginning to clean up first in order to build your strategy, in order to build artificial intelligence that the organization and the clients can work with. So we will have a Q&A session because I see that we don't have any questions. So I would like just to raise that point that we will have a very interactive discussion in the end of this webinar. So please, any questions that you might have to our presenters here today, put them in the question and answer session. I think the chat is disabled, but for the Q&A, please put them and we'll draw them and we'll be happy to discuss them with you together. You can see now on the screen a little bit in the interactive sessions that we would like to do with you. We have a first poll with you, and we would like to hear how you feel about artificial intelligence in public employment services. Anything that comes to your mind in one word. You can use the Slido QR code. You can scan this with your phone or tablet. But you can also go on the slido.com page and put in the code that is displayed down here. And we will be very curious to see what you put into our little word cloud. So I see some words coming up. Efficiency, okay. That seems to be a very prominent one here. I'll give you a little bit of time to do that.
Yeah, maybe while people are putting in the words, I would like to ask maybe William, you spoke about AI. Do you have any examples where AI was used incorrectly?
Yeah, but I have a very interesting example, and I will not name the PaaS that was doing this. And you're going to talk about this more, so maybe this is a lead into your presentation in a little bit, Alexander. There was a PaaS that wanted to build a recommender tool to help people that were rejoining the labor market to find job opportunities. But they found out that a large group of rejoiners in the labor market tended to be women that were working before they, got pregnant, children, stayed at home for a while, and then wanted to rejoin the labor market again. And this tool started recommending part-time jobs to women. And why was that? That was because typically women in this country used to have part-time jobs before they left the labor market. So you got a reinforcing loop of, basically recommending something to those people that was based on history, but was not what those people were looking for, because now they were open and they wanted to get a job and they wanted to get full job opportunities. So you created a sense of inequality by using perhaps the wrong data to create recommendations that made sense from a data perspective, but was not what society needed.
Yeah. So,
and obviously they're not using that tool.
Yeah. So bias, of course, right?
Of course, you get bias. And that's something you need to be very careful about when you do these things.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. I see still some people typing in. However, we would like, and I'm going to pick the most prominent one, but we'll come back to that later. I would like to also poll another question. And we need to have this coming up. This will be for you to vote on. We have the question, where is your organization currently in the process of adopting artificial intelligence solutions? I know that we have many people from public employment services today in the audience that are super interested in this topic and would like to learn more. But we also have some other people from stakeholder organizations, supporters. So please go ahead and put in the and vote where you feel like we haven't started yet. We've implemented artificial intelligence in some areas. We're exploring possibilities, or we are piloting small AI project. And we have also one AI is fully embedded in our settings or in our services. So we'll see how you vote. We see the bars raising up here. And I can see that we have a big majority voting also implemented and piloting. We'll let you. I see that some people are still typing. We're going to give it a couple seconds. All right, and we have some very prominent answers here when we ask you how you feel about artificial intelligence. Most of you, most prominent words were efficiency, speed, and helpful, besides some others. And then when we ask you, where is your organization in the process of adopting AI solution, most of you are voting for we've implemented AI in some areas, or we're piloting small AI projects. When it comes to the emotions raising for artificial intelligence, efficiency, speed, helpful, does it come like a surprise to you?
No, the efficiency, speed, and they're probably parts of the same coin, because I'm not surprised that PES see AI as a tool that could improve how processes are run and therefore create a more efficiently run organization. Also a little bit surprised that we did not see more about better services and helping our clients better, because I think that's an equally a valid opportunity area for PES. But I can see the point, because saving money and doing more with less, I mean, everybody has budget squeezes. So being able to do more with less, it makes fantastic sense.
Yeah, so putting more the focus a little bit on standardized procedures, saving more time for
freeing up time for
yeah.
counselors, for example. So if you don't have to worry about, your daily routine tasks, and you can have AI do that, but you have time to worry about the complex cases or the more fun, challenging cases where the human insights really make a difference. That kind of approach I can see working really well. And then you combine efficiency with actually more effective service delivery or more efficacy, which is, you get two wins for the price of one.
Yeah, but not only that, I think also it's really helpful when it comes to, doing the research also for you. Many things, and many public employment services have lots of things to research, to work also with some policies, and they really can use this as a helpful tool. Is that something that you can?
Absolutely, because we already saw some of those, career guidance tools where certain pairs are building tools that help them plow through all the information that they have available to do better case management, or to get more insights in what's happening in certain cases based on historical cases. So those information retrieval and condensing information tools, I think they can be fantastically powerful and very useful.
Thank you. And we have you all have been voting on the implementation, and really the highest voting goes to we've implemented AI in some areas. And Willem, you've been doing so much research on this topic. I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about those public employment services that have been implementing and or exploring possibilities. Do you have any example on this?
So I think that indeed it makes sense that by now most pairs have implemented AI in one of those areas that we've talking about. And like I said, it's typically will be, we have a profiling tool, or we do a segmentation, or we have recommender tools for career guidance. So I'm not surprised about that. We're also seeing, and I think that aligns with the other research that we're seeing, that exploring is still a big bucket. So pairs that are interested in this and trying to explore what's out there, well, hopefully we can build connections. So if you want to explore and learn more, come to us and we'll build connections with pairs that have been doing this. No pairs has fully embedded it in the organization yet. So that's also not surprising. If we do this again in 5 years, we'll probably see the first pairs that has been doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great result, and I think it reflects where the world is. So that's a nice data point.
Yeah, and it also comes, of course, we've been talking about all these advantages, but it also comes so with many ethical challenges, also some things that we need to learn working really with the machine and the human in the digitalization or with the artificial intelligence per se. Um, yeah, it's really to build on this. We will now be listening to you, Alexander, since you will be talking about ethical standardization and public employment services, and you're really the one that working on the technical level, working with the public employment services together and implement those procedures and those artificial intelligence systems. So we're super grateful and we're very curious to hear what you have been doing. So the word over to you, Alexander.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm happy to share some of my insights there, of course. Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. So public employment services have a great responsibility to actually prepare for the future, as also Willem just explained. There's a large part of that internally focused, really on optimizing your processes, building foundations for more interesting applications. But this is also true in a much broader sense, because public employment services have the challenge to actually help people get a job in a sustainable manner, so that they have a suitable job now, but also in the future. Because the labor market is ever changing, and we've seen that in the past couple of years as well, with new AI-related occupations popping up, skills popping up related to AI. Um, Prompt engineering, for instance, was something we haven't heard of, I think, well, we only started hearing about it in 2 years ago or something. And all of a sudden, like after ChatGPT was publicly available, within a few weeks, there were already on LinkedIn people who had a few years of experience as prompt engineer, which was kind of a joke back then. But right now, there's actually well, or at least vacancies for prompt engineering specifically. So turned into some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, the thing is that public employment services need to keep up with these trends, need to know what's going on in the labor market, need to identify these new skills, new occupations, and actually help people prepare for tomorrow's labor market. So, what can public employment services do with this? Well, first of all, it's like Willem just mentioned, matching supply and demand on the labor market. That's a very big challenge for public employment services. But then on top of that, public employment services can also identify development paths for people to actually decrease their distance to the labor market. Moreover, public employment services should track these trends in this ever-changing labor market. And then most importantly, public employment services should do all of this while still reducing inequality by actually promoting equitable outcomes, typically through interventions that are more tailored to the needs of specific groups of people that have their own challenges in the labor market, and all focused on ensuring that they actually all reach the same outcome, which is typically getting a sustainable job, actually now and in the future. So this could require different treatment for different groups, because people have different challenges that need to be addressed in different ways, but then all of that for them to reach the same goal. Well, as Willem also just mentioned, technology can serve as a crucial enabler in this transformation. The labor market is changing, but we have to adapt with it. Now, we cannot really ignore the rapidly increasing potential of AI, but with great power does come great responsibility. And this is where responsible AI practices come into play. Because we have to ensure that we use technology like AI in an ethical but still effective way, and still in alignment with the values of public employment services, as well as emerging global regulations around the use of AI. So before we dive into more details, I would like to make sure that we're all on the same page regarding terminology. As Willem also just mentioned, AI can have a broad definition. We don't always agree on what exactly is AI. So just for completeness sake, and to make sure that we're on the same page here, let me just give my definition of AI, because whenever I mention AI right now, most people think of ChatGPT. And yes, that is a form of AI, but AI is much broader than that. When I talk about AI, I'm referring to the practice of making machines exhibit human-like intelligence, and that's mostly of the type of cognitive intelligence. So it's related to following rules, applying logic, performing automated reasoning, to perform tasks like learning, predicting, mastering certain skills, and solving complex problems. Now, how do we do that? Well, typically that's being done using algorithms, which are essentially models that allow you to perform these tasks. These models can be based on all kinds of technology. So Willem actually just showed a very nice overview of the landscape of possibilities that we have right now. Key thing there is that these approaches are not all machine learning. And typically when people do understand there's more to AI than just ChatGPT, then the next cliche is, okay, machine learning. Yes, that's part of AI. It's one of the tools in the toolbox, but there are many more types of algorithms that you could use. Some of them are just based on logic and reasoning and don't really have a lot of learning in there, but can still be classified as AI because they apply inference. The interesting thing is that today, a lot of these algorithms are available, almost freely available to anybody who has a little bit technical knowledge. And yeah, you can just use these through cloud services and libraries like TensorFlow, ChatGPT. There's a very low threshold of entering the AI space right now. One other component that's for me critical to be included into the AI definition is the incorporation of domain knowledge, typically through business logic or taxonomies or ontologies. And we typically do this to improve the algorithms and or the interpretation of their outcomes. So far for definitions. Now, the biggest challenge here. So in general, AI is getting more and more accessible by the day. And we sometimes refer to this as the democratization of technology, which is a very interesting and exciting development, but it's not without risk. And in my opinion, democratization might have actually come a little bit too soon because I feel like we weren't completely ready. Until recently, you actually had to be a true AI expert in order to be able to use AI. But nowadays, almost everyone can actually just start using AI without truly understanding what they're doing. It's like trying to drive a car without needing a driving license per se, because it's so easy, it's all automatic anyway. Well, this kind of techno-optimism is driving the rise of many startups built around some ChatGPT prompts and wrapping it in a clever way, which seems all exciting. But before you know it, you're deploying some kind of AI model with unchecked assumptions, unclear data sources right into the real world, making real world decisions. And that's where accidents are bound to happen. It takes real expertise and skills to be actually aware of and appropriately deal with some key challenges that we have in AI applications. So a few challenges I put on the slide here. We have data selection. You must make sure to select the right source of data to correctly process the data. Interesting example I've seen in the past is people completely relying on LinkedIn data. So let's just scrape LinkedIn and get vacancies and job seekers from there. Apart from that not being completely legal and against terms and conditions, it's also not a very good data source if you want to capture the full job market. LinkedIn is a very specific segment of the labor market. So you run the risk of having incomplete data. Selecting the right type of model is crucial as well. Again, ChatGPT may seem cool, but it's not always the right model to use. It's very good for generating language or making things understandable or understanding language. It's not necessarily the best tool to evaluate whether a job seeker is a good candidate for a job position. There might be biases in there as well, trained on whatever is out there. So not necessarily the best type of model to use there. Now, another key challenge is in evaluation and presentation of results. How do you really know if your model is working? You should deal with change because the world is changing, so your model should be dealing with that as well. And finally, we should pay very special attention to bias because you can already introduce bias by selecting the wrong set of data, completely focusing on LinkedIn, for instance, in your model selection. For instance, if you try to use ChatGPT to evaluate the job seeker's goodness of fit, or even who's validating the results, what kind of assumptions you're bringing into that validation. So all in all, AI has great potential, but with great power comes great responsibility. And this is why we now see a rapidly evolving regulatory landscape to make sure that AI is used in a responsible manner. So I've tried to visualize that on a map. Yep. So basically, the darker the color on this map, the more advanced or closer to realization the initiatives are. So there's all kinds of initiatives around the world regarding responsible AI. It could be legislation, sometimes it's just guidelines or standards like ISO 42001. Of course, in the EU, we now have the AI Act, which is being rolled out. Part of it already in effect, and parts of it will be in effect, especially for the labor market, will start being in effect in August 2026. So that's the strictest legislation in the world around the use of AI, ensuring that we use AI in a responsible manner. Now, there are other initiatives around the world as well. So Brazil is very advanced already in similar legislation, similar to the AI Act. China has all kinds of regulations around cybersecurity, data use, but also transparency of algorithms. So it's really happening all over the world. And there's all kinds of differences between these frameworks, but there's also quite a few common denominators. So first and foremost, most of these frameworks are all about protecting human rights, making sure that the AI is used in a way that is not harming people and is in alignment with the values of the governments stating these legislations or guidelines. Typically, it's a risk-based approach, so it's all about managing and monitoring risks by applying governance around data use, model use, etc. Typically, there are a lot of guidelines around providing transparency, keeping humans in control, and doing things in the right way. So applying methodological soundness when you actually apply AI. So what does this mean for public employment services? What should you do when you start or want to start using AI? So based on our experience in the past almost 3 decades of trying to apply AI in the public employment space, we've learned a few key lessons. First and foremost, it's important to ensure that the core of your solution is a type of AI that allows for transparency by its nature. So it should keep a human in the loop. It should be rule-based, knowledge-driven, and essentially controllable, explainable, and automated application of logic and reasoning. That should really be the core, because this is where you are supporting the decisions, the key decisions that you're making as a public employment service. For instance, is this person the right match for this job? Or what training should this person do? You want to be able to explain these decisions, especially if benefits are linked to this as well. Because I know that some public employment services enforce people to apply for jobs that they think are suitable in order for them to keep their benefits. So if you're going down that path, you better make sure that you can explain why you think that a certain vacancy is a good match with a job seeker. So that should be the core. There is, however, room for more data-driven or self-learning capabilities, and typically we recommend applying this in a more supporting role. For instance, to improve the quality of the data going into the solution, or explaining the results coming out of your solution in a more human understandable way. This is typically a much better application of models like ChatGPT or other large language models. So to really translate whatever a user was putting in to something that you understand as an occupation or a skill, or to actually explain a result in a more human understandable way on their level of understanding. Just to actually help people work with your system. Now, in both rule-based and data-driven innovations, it's always a good idea to strive for a responsible use of AI by prioritizing explainability of whatever algorithm you use. And that can actually be by the very nature of your algorithm. So let it be rule-based, let it be like decision trees or more business rules. But you can also go for a more black box approach like machine learning, but then put other techniques in place to explain at least which factors contributed most to a decision. So you could use something like a Shapley analysis to give some insight into what's going on in your black box. Methodological rigor when developing or applying your algorithms is also very important. And last but definitely not least, the diversity of backgrounds of professionals working with your AI solutions or on your AI solutions is of crucial importance. And this is also what we've seen in WCC. We've had, I think, about 30 different nationalities working for us with a very specific intent and purpose. Because if we would have been all white, middle-aged men working on AI, AI would reflect the worldview of white, middle-aged men. And that's not necessarily what we should want as public employment services in general. I mean, we have to deal with equity, inclusion, equality, and reduce bias. And the only real way to do that is if you have diversity in the team working on these AI solutions as well. So when you want to use AI in a high impact domain like the employment market, until recently it was a very nice to have to be responsible and ethical, but nowadays these practices are just not a nice to have, they become enforced. Because you have to comply now with emerging AI regulations around the world. Now, to help you out here, comply with these regulations, we've identified a few key cornerstones of your AI projects or AI solutions. If you use these, you should be in a much better place to comply by design. So first and foremost, aim for transparency of your solution. So you should create solutions that provide transparency on the reasoning behind the outputs. So that could be rule-based solutions, decision trees, or Shapley analyses to explain what's going on. Then design your solution in a way that allows you to incorporate your domain knowledge into the system. Don't let the machine learning system run rampant on some kind of data you feed it and just keep your fingers crossed that it might actually derive the right patterns. No, feed your own knowledge into that as well, because that's your bread and butter as a public employment service. You know what you're doing, you know your domain, you know how you do or how you can best do your job. So that domain knowledge must be fed into your AI in order for it to be much more effective and efficient at what you intended to do. Now, of course, data is an important part, as William already mentioned as well. Whenever you use data, though, you must allow for full controllability of exactly what data you used, from what source, how you clean that data, how you transform the data into something that you can use in your application, how you enrich your data, and under what circumstances you use the data. Then, once you have identified your data, you can actually create all kinds of models on your data that could serve very specific use cases and very specific conditions. So again, there you must allow for full controllability on what kind of model you use, when, for whom, under what circumstances. So it's very important to have full control there. Now, once it's all running in practice, you have to perform appropriate monitoring of your AI solution. So use analytics and system logs to monitor your performance, to spot trends and patterns that could actually help you improve your model. So you should feed that back into your model. Now, the last one we learned the hard way as well. You should aim for user acceptance of your solution by engaging your user in the full process, which already starts at data entry. It goes all the way through taking them hand by the hand in increasing complexity, having them opt into using the different kind of models that you apply, and make sure that that they have the feeling that they are understanding what's going on, but they're also in control of the underlying AI. So it's of critical importance to actually start thinking about responsible AI practices now, because these practices are not optional anymore, especially within the EU under the new AI Act. AI applications in the employment domain will fall under the high risk category and hence will be strictly regulated as of August 2026. Now, this timeline might shift a little bit in light of recent developments, but for now it's August 2026. So it's of critical importance for you to start thinking about compliance now. And even outside of the EU, lots of initiatives are popping up. So the best time to think about it is now, before you have something running in practice. Start thinking about this on the drawing table. Now, there's all kinds of initiatives popping up nowadays to actually help you deal with this. One of this is the AI Pact, of which we're also a part. And actually our participation in the AI Pact will allow us to remain a front runner in the application of responsible AI. Now, just a few key takeaways for you if you want to get started with AI, or even if you are already experimenting with AI. These are a few takeaways for you for your next AI projects. First and foremost, it's important to realize that there is no one-size-fits-all approach for AI to actually support you in your core activities. In this day and age, I know it's very tempting to just play around with tools like ChatGPT, and like Willem mentioned, like it's very low cost to start and just have something running. Have some clever prompts out there and be like, okay, I'm doing AI now, but that's not how it works. Large language models like ChatGPT are just not always a good fit. So it all starts with, first of all, identifying how to do the right thing. Like, what is it exactly that you want to do? So stop just throwing random things at the wall in order to just see what sticks. No, really start by identifying the problem that you want to solve. What is it? What is the nail that you want to hit? Don't start with the hammer, start with the nail. What is the problem? Now, once you have identified what exact problem you want to solve, then figure out what is the hammer that you need to build in order to hit that nail. First, design it, then implement it. And that tool might be a large language model, but it might very well be something different. Another part of crafting your perfect hammer is creating the circumstances for you to be successful. And as Willem mentioned, data is key. It starts with data. It starts with building a very solid foundation. In the field of AI, we have this saying, garbage in, garbage out. This very much relates to your data quality. So make sure that you have a solid foundation of good quality data. You clean it up, you enrich it, and only then start thinking about using that for AI. So suppose you've crafted your perfect hammer, you've identified your nail, and you can start hitting that nail with your hammer. All fun and games, but if you only have a hammer and you know the nail, but there's no process around how to use the hammer or when to use the hammer, then you're still pretty much lost. So in order for your AI project to be successful, make sure that your technology is embedded into a business process. That's the only way in which it's actually going to be successful. Now, whatever you do in your next AI project, please keep the following in mind. The human factor is the most crucial part of your solution. So focus on transparency and controllability and keeping a human in the loop by design to make sure that you do the right thing and that you do it right.
Thank you very much, Alexander, also for focusing quite a bit on establishing also ethical guidelines for public employment services. Great power, great responsibility is what you said. And this is also something that concerns many players within the public employment service, which means a big change also for many players, especially for leadership. And yeah, there need to be really some guidelines and some hands-on and something that they can really work it to break it down to the teams. So, and I see that many of you have already many questions for that. However, I will give over to Deville to have that question.
Thank you, Nicole.
Answers.
Thank you, Alexander, as well for the presentation. So indeed, we have quite a few questions. Just to remind everyone, I would like everyone to invite to post questions in the Q&A to make sure that we don't miss any questions. And this session is a short Q&A session, and the rest of the questions which we did not answer will be picked up in the final Q&A panel. So I have a question for maybe Willem. We could start with you. especially from your research, what is the most exciting AI application apart from matching that you have seen being developed in PESs? What maybe stood out?
Oh, that's an interesting and good question because it really depends on how you see exciting.
Yeah.
I get really excited about the sort of non-standard applications. So obviously everybody's looking at LLMs and everybody wants to do JetGPT kind of implementations. But there is a PES that is currently looking at high density and really big graph models to see if you can do a better job at creating skill overviews and linking skills and using that information to do a better job at matching rather than having your standard, taxonomy where you have higher level skills and you break this down in very specific areas. They try to look at how it all relates together to create a much more flexible overview of what's going on. And I find that really cool, but that's more from a sort of nerdy data perspective. But I also get really excited about PES that are taking this seriously. PES that don't just say, we want something that's new and shiny and sexy, but we want to take this seriously and provide actual value. So I'm very excited about the Costa Rica example that we're going to be seeing later on because they're using AI to achieve a very specific and clearly defined goal and have a very concrete plan about that.
Yeah.
So that really excites me because it focuses not on the technology and being shiny and being modern, but it focuses on actual outcomes. And we need more of that.
Yeah.
And I get very excited about PES that want to make this part of the organization. So a PES that a couple of years ago had a very big data lab or innovation lab where they were in isolation playing with AI tools and developing algorithms. And they now said, no, this should be part of our core business. And we're going to integrate this unit into our operations to make AI just part of what we do as an organization. And from a sort of organizational and operational perspective, I think that's a very interesting and a very exciting development because it shows that they're taking it seriously and that you need all that parts from the entire organization to make this a success. So yeah, excitement all around, but in very different areas.
Yeah, I think indeed sometimes to scope down and define a clear problem might help to implement AI in a successful way, as also Lysander mentioned. Do you have anything to add, Alexander?
So not necessarily in terms of AI projects per se, but I really like seeing the trend of especially some of the larger PESs now also focusing more, well, first of all, already when thinking of AI, I see this in RFI and RFPs, there's really a lot of attention for, okay, what is it that we want to do? So identifying that nail and then thinking about the hammer. So I like seeing that trend. And there's another trend I've observed that there's more ethical considerations as well, even within PES, a whole ethical board in some of PESs, thinking about, well, can we do this? Should we do this? And only then actually continue with the actual process. So that's a very reassuring trend. And I would like to see more of that. Yeah.
Alexander, maybe you can just clarify. We have some question about terminology.
Yeah.
Does the profiling and segmentation mean the same? Could it mean different? I know in our company we sort of use it interchangeably.
Yeah. So that depends on context, but in principle, I think that's more or less the same. So I think when you were mentioning profiling, but maybe that's also more question for William, but the way I understood it was you were talking about, okay, figuring out what category of people is this and how should we treat them. Yeah, that's also when I talk about it, that's what I mean. So that is segmentation, but it could be rule-based, like you just have a long-term unemployed people, or you could do a data-driven variant, and sometimes a data-driven variant is more is referred to as profiling, and segmentation is more the rule-based one. Tomato, tomato. For me, it's same.
They're being used interchangeably. I read a paper about this a long time ago where we said it. Profiling is the activity of doing something on the individual level. So you create a profile of a person, and you can use that on a higher level to segment an entire population. Because if you have a bunch of people with profile X, that would create a segment in your population. But that's just one lens to look at this.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Maybe couple more questions. In terms of challenges, could you just explain a little bit about hallucinations? So I assume AI hallucinations. How do we avoid that?
Yeah, honestly. So this is a great example why I wouldn't use an LLM without any guardrails. So an LLM, in essence, generates text based on all the patterns that it has learned so far, plus the context that you provide it with. So it essentially tries to predict the next most likely word and does so in a very complex way. So it just generates language. By doing so, it's not necessarily fact-checked. So there are all kinds of ways of fixing that in a little bit, but still it is generating content similar to the content it has seen before and similar to the context that you are giving it. So it could very well be not exactly correct. It could be incomplete, it could be incorrect. So yes, it can hallucinate, so come up with facts that don't exist. Then you can have all kinds of guardrails in place to do some kind of check against a knowledge base. So this is also why you should incorporate domain knowledge. That would be one of the tools you could use to prevent or at least check against hallucinations. But it's not a given that the content coming out of a large language model is trustworthy.
Yeah.
So don't use that in a critical path of your
Thanks.
application.
And we already mentioned bias a little bit before. So how do we try to eliminate the bias risks as much as possible?
Yeah, I think that's very much touching upon or elaborating further on what Alexander is saying. You need to have, proper data governance. You need to make sure that, first of all, your input data is good, high quality data. And you need to make sure that subsequently the people that work with the data, stick to the rules, make sure that everything is trained properly, and subsequently and lastly, that the results that you're using them, that you check for the outcomes. You make sure that there is no systematic bias. So you can systematically check for, recommendations that are being done. Is there this bias in there that could create inequality or some other kind of discrimination? So you just need to have process around these things, and that's part of that, data strategy, data governance, responsible AI. It's all part of that same. Creating a process around use of data. So it's in that sense, it's much harder than you think it is. It's not buying AI, it's building process.
Yeah, it should be representative of your labor market, of course, right? I think we will pause the Q&A for now to keep up with the time. So I'll hand it back to you, Nicole.
Thank you so much for the lively discussion and for your really great expertise on this topic. We're really super happy to have you here and answering some questions. I know that we have some more, but like Dovile said, we will focus on that. Please post them if you still are eager and would like to have some more questions answered. So post them in the Q&A or in the chat. Yeah, so now we're going a little bit to the practical part, and would like to announce our speaker from Perkeso from the Malaysian PAS. Razi, he will be guiding us through the establishment of their digitalization tools and artificial intelligence. So Razi, I give the word over to you.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, good day, everyone. My name is Razi. So today I'll be sharing Perkeso's journey in digitalizing labor market data, a transformation that began modestly, evolved systematically, and ultimately culminated in a powerful AI-enabled ecosystem that we now call the Labor Market Exchange, or LMX. So this is not just a story about technology, it is a story about people, policy, and purpose. How a national institution moved from fragmented manual reporting to real-time data-driven intelligence that today empowers policymakers, researchers, and even our own public employment officers in the field. Next slide. So our journey began back in 2019, around 6 years back, when Perkeso launched the EIS Center portal, our very first attempt to make labor market information accessible and actionable. So at the time, data was drawn from two main systems, the My Future Jobs portal, which is from WCC, and the Employment Information Services System, which is an IBM solution. So together, these two systems provided critical information on loss of employment, job vacancies, job seekers, and job placement data. So, however, in those early years, everything was still done manually. So data was extracted from the My Future Jobs database using Power BI, while the LOE or lost employment claims statistics were pulled from the DB2 queries. So reports were static, dashboards were limited, and updating insights could take days or even weeks. Still, we saw this stage as crucial. It represented the moment Pekeso began to recognize data as a national asset. So the EIS Center portal was our first step towards connecting multiple systems into a shared source of labor market truth. Next slide. So after this initial phase, Pekeso began laying down the intellectual and structural foundations for a stronger labor market framework. So this framework was actually anchored from 3 key policy papers. So the first paper is Harnessing Administrative Records for Labor Market Information System. So this basically describes the integration of administrative data across Pekeso. The second paper, Bridging Occupations and Qualification, focused on the aligning what Malaysians learn with what the industries need. So basically, this is a matching paper. And the third is mostly on the taxonomy, which is the MSOC handbook, which defines Malaysian skills, occupation, qualification, and competences. Okay, these papers provided the conceptual backbone for our digital architecture, actually, so that we want to ensure that all future data systems spoke the same language. Next slide. So towards automation, so 2021 proven to be our turning point. So in early 2021, Pekeso took a decisive leap forward. A proposal was submitted to our ICT division to develop a labor market information system, or LMIS, one that could automate and standardize how labor data was captured, processed, and even shared. Built on Pekeso's data warehouse architecture, the LMIS use ETL pipelines, which are extract, transport, and load, to consolidate data from multiple sources. Another major milestone was the integration of the social security data, employers, employees, and even gig workers. So this expanded our analytical reach far beyond job seekers, actually giving us a holistic view of Malaysia's total workforce. So the goal was simple yet transformative, to make our reporting comprehensive, timely, and ready for AI modeling, which is turning raw data into actionable insights. Next slide. Later that same year, in late 2021, this vision became reality with the launch of the Labour Market Command Center, located at the SIP office in Putrajaya in Malaysia. What once took weeks to compile could now be viewed instantly. So this command center marked a cultural shift from reactive reporting to proactive decision making. Policymakers could now respond to emerging trends in near real time, supported by live data. So this is a statement of our commitment. So more than a room of screens, the command center was proof that Pekeso had become a data-driven institution. Next slide. So with this foundation, the next step was to design a unified digital ecosystem. We want to group everything into a portal so that could democratize our labor data. So this is called the Labor Market Exchange, or LMX. Development began in 2022, and over the next 3 years, the project brought together data engineers, economists, and AI specialists to create not just a portal, but a living system. During this time, several AI-based tools were developed in-house to complement LMX. So we have one AI tool called Wage Guide. This is a machine learning tool for salary benchmarking and fair remuneration, helping both employers and job seekers understand wage trends. And the second AI tool is called Career Bridge. This is an natural language processing or NLP-based tool mapping qualifications to suitable career path, aligning education with employment. So together, these tools showcase Pekeso's growing capability to apply AI in solving real-world labor challenges. So next slide. So this is the screenshot of the LMX portal. Okay. By 2025, the LMX portal was fully operational, marking the culmination of a 5-year digital journey. It unites several major components. So the first component in the LMX is the employment tools, which are AI-based, and we have a wage guide, a career bridge, and the latest we call Job Galaxy. So Job Galaxy basically is a career planning. It shows how the career of occupation move as the skills progress. Okay. So the next one, we have the interactive visualizations with dynamic maps and dashboards showing labor data across states, sectors, and demographics. We also have the statistic modules for customized data set, trend analysis, and downloadable files for research and policy making, meaning we make this data available to the public. And we also have the publication repository. This contains reports, analysis, and news. And also, not to forget, the standards section. We showcase the taxonomies that we use in our labor market, which are the industry taxonomy, we have the occupation taxonomy, and we also have the education taxonomy. So our labor market system, we use combine all these three taxonomies to enrich the labor market information system. So in short, LMX integrates data, intelligence, and accessibility into a single platform that enables evidence-based decisions and public transparency. So next slide. Yet the journey doesn't stop at data. So we have the Malaysia Career Exploration Center. So Pekeso's mission has always been to translate insights into human impact. And this spirit comes alive through the Malaysia Career Exploration Center, or we call it MyCEC. This is located in Kuala Lumpur. So it is a state-of-the-art career discovery hub, which combines gamified self-assessments, AI insights, and immersive learning experiences to guide Malaysians in shaping their career path. So there are 4 key pillars of engagement within the center. So we embed the labor market insights as a key aspect or key pillar, where visitors can explore real data from our LMX portal to understand current job trends. We also have career exploration, which helps individuals discover industries that fit their skills and passions. We also have a skill development pillar, offering workshops and training to build future-ready capabilities. And the 4th is networking opportunities, connecting job seekers with employers through events and fairs. So at MyCEC, career readiness becomes an interactive journey. It turns data into discovery, allowing every visitor to visualize their potential and align it with real opportunities. So we can say that MyCEC is more than a center. It is where Pekeso's digital vision meets human experience. So bridging analytics with aspiration. Next slide. So how about our past offices? So beyond MyCEC, the impact of digitalization is equally profound in the field. So our public employment officers now have data at their fingertips, which are accessible via laptops and tablets, which are mobile, empowering them to engage employers and job seekers more effectively. So they can also identify which industries are hiring, where vacancies are rising, and which demographics need the most support. They plan targeted job fairs, tailor training efforts, and track outcomes with measurable precision. So in essence, the digitalization journey has transformed our PEOs, or public employment officers, from administrative coordinators into data-informed strategists, amplifying their capacity to make meaningful interventions. So next slide. So when we reflect on this journey, it becomes clear that Picasso's transformation was not merely technological, it was cultural. So we moved from manual extraction to automated pipelines, from siloed databases to unified architecture, and from descriptive reports to predictive insights. And LMX has enhanced operational efficiency, improved policy responsiveness, and expanded transparency. It has turned Picasso into a hub of labor intelligence, which is to serve the public, inform research, and guide national policy. Next slide. And looking ahead, the journey continues. So the next chapter for LMS includes predictive analytics to forecast skill demands, cross-ministerial data integration, and natural language AI interfaces for more intuitive access. We aim to make labor data truly alive and conversational, accessible to everyone from researchers to citizens. So this future is not far, actually. It's already being built. Next slide. So closing reflections in summary. Picasso's labor market digitalization journey has been long, disciplined, and transformative. The labor market exchange and MyCEC stand as twin pillars of Picasso's innovation, one delivering intelligence, the other delivering inspiration. So data empowering people and people giving meaning to data. So the road has indeed been long and laborious, but every step was worth it. Today, Malaysia's labor market data is not hidden in systems. It is living, dynamic, and serving the people it was meant to help. So for that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Razi. Thank you so much for your expertise and really showing us the pathway and your journey that you met yourself on. So really perfect example from a third state country, especially also to our listeners here today that are also listening from outside of the EU and are not in alignment with the EU AI Act, as I understand. So very much appreciated, and would like to know your opinion on the example of Malaysia from Picasso, Alexander and Willem.
Okay, yeah, no, so I really like this example, to be honest. So also related to the poll that I already see people filling in, to me it's really hard to pick like what's my most favorite part about this. But if I really have to, if you twist my arm, I would personally go with the fact that Malaysia invested so much into building a solid foundation. And the last few examples that Razi just gave is really them starting to pick the fruits of their hard labor. Really a lot of investment in building that foundation, making the data available, cleaning it up, finding links or linking actually human experience also to their to this whole ecosystem. It's amazing. I really like this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to fully echo this. I think it's doing the right things, because we've been talking so much in our presentations about having a data strategy and data governance and organizing your stuff, and they've been doing this, and they haven't been focusing initially on the shiny examples. No, they've been focusing on getting the data there, creating a data platform, and now we see all those examples. And I love things. Nobody's saying this in the poll yet, but I love things like the career discovery hubs, where you start marrying the personal contact and the physical interactions with something that's database and AI driven. I think that's fantastic, because once you have that foundation, you can start building cool stuff that are actually practical and useful on top of that. So great, yeah, great initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm seeing that the highest percentage is central data warehouse. This is the foundation actually. That's good.
Yeah, yes, of course, Razi. If you want to highlight this a little bit more, what does it mean, like to have the foundation cleaning up your room first before you're putting other things into the room? So maybe you could highlight a little bit the central data warehouse and analytics center, just one or two sentences.
Actually, this is where the real pain actually. So if you look at our journey, actually we spent 3 years doing this before we even look at even AI.
So it's been a long journey, as I understand, but you put in all the effort and really made sure that this is cleaned up and really tidied up before getting into the analytics and establishing an artificial intelligence knowledge center, as I understand. Super. Thank you so much for that. Now we will move to our last and final presentation, and I'm very excited to announce our next speaker, Vanessa Sinde from Costa Rica, from Central America. So she will be talking about her Future Up program. It's been done together with several other stakeholders, and we're very curious to hear about your presentation and what you have been doing in Costa Rica. Vanessa, so I give the word over to you.
Thank you very much. And it's great to be here. It was a great experience just to have the idea to serve, as a platform that will bring to Costa Rica a new approach to our labor market. So Future Up came up as an initiative that we launched because of the support that we give over 400 multinational companies in country. And maybe on the next slide, to give you a context of my organization, the Costa Rican Investment Promotion Agency, on the next slide, basically it's a not-for-profit private organization. It's been around for 43 years now. And we basically cater to promote Costa Rica as a location for foreign direct investment. And with that in hand, being part of the team that supports the companies on the ground, we were very clear that there was some missing parts happening or value proposition of the country was we have great talent and companies seeking talent, but in a different way to the way that locally we were interpreting talent. So we actually just take advantage of having all the know-how and the interaction and the commitment of all of these multinationals sitting around the table and pointing out that, well, things has changed, the market has evolved, and what we are looking for is people with specific skills, no longer just a degree, but also other things that were, categorized as soft skills or essential skills and so on. So we needed to actually serve as a lost in translation interpreter, to say so, between the companies and the individuals that were eagerly seeking these new job opportunities that we were able to create in country. On the next slide, then, we came up with an idea and we proposed this to the Inter-American Development Bank, that we receive support both from IDB and CRUSA, who allocate the resources to take this idea and this effort to reality and giving us the opportunity not just to idolize the opportunity of not just matching or implementing a tool that serves both sides of the market, companies and people, but also to partner and develop a concept that was aligned with the objective and initiative of other key stakeholders in the ecosystem and even internationally, such as WCC, which was our technical strategic partner. So we were able to deploy this program in 42 months. Actually, it was challenging. We received approval to start this program mid-2019. So we went live exactly the weekend when we were actually declared shut down because of the pandemic. We hosted WCC's team in Costa Rica, and we had this huge opportunity through our job fair to actually start testing the concepts and the ideas. But, well, we had to not close down before time, but definitely we had to complete the project on a virtual basis because of the pandemic. And with that, we also were able to propose and convey the message of this challenge of understanding better and building a more stronger connections in our labor market. So we got the support and we had a council from government, because we are private, from the government, with 6 different government officials, ministers themselves, and academia, public academia as well, that actually support throughout the design, testing, and deployment of the project. Very importantly, and as mentioned throughout this presentation of all my previous colleagues that were presenting, inclusion, transparency, avoiding bias all of these features was critical for many reasons, because we wanted the tool to work, we wanted for it to be extended and inclusive, but at the same time to build the trust. So we had the opportunity as well to work with IDB program Fairluck, which basically came on board as a technical support to guarantee and to share standards under which, when we design and basically when WCC did all the adaptation and the design of the platform, we were actually keeping those objectives real. So with that, we actually came about to develop this concept, which we will find on the following slide. We knew that we have several stakeholders, main players. We had employees on one side or potential employees, and it was not just labor market per se, because one of the main things that we have to talk about this platform, it is, and I'm going to mention next on the next slide, is it is not a job-seeking platform. It was actually aimed to actually facilitate. I'm just going to go back to the previous slide, if you don't mind. It was actually aimed to facilitate to the individuals that was about to enter the marketplace or in the marketplace, the awareness of the value of their skills. So the key part of this platform was how could we match the skills, understanding from each individual and their discovering what skills they have, what interests they have, where they want to go with their skills. And on the other hand, translating how these job positions that these companies, both multinationals and locals, was actually bringing to market that are pretty much focusing more on non-traditional skill as to the moment that we started the project. And with that in mind, we were able to align with government, with other stakeholders, content developers, you name it, basically with the advice of how we wanted to shape the experience of individuals in the marketplace for them to actually acquire these skill sets and become better performers in the labor market. So with that, and following on the slide, the concept that we developed followed the cycle in which, basically individuals will register to the platform. They would complete their profile. They will create a profile, which at the beginning, it seemed simple, but there is where we start having, the challenges that was also pointed out. How could we build the trust and people feeling secure and willing to provide the right data, the accurate data to the platform? And one of the first challenges that we met when we did several of the focus group that we did in all sort of this profile descriptions is that people were not comfortable to use their ID number as the key to the platform, which for us, even from the beginning, we thought that that would be just a not a deal breaker, and actually it became a deal breaker. So we had to start this platform basically using other proxies of how to track an individual, not necessarily with this ID. Further on, yes, we were able to have the trust and then for them to do it. But this was something that we had to actually tackle as one of the first challenges in the process. The idea is once the individual had his profile built, he started identifying its areas of interest. For many people, they were not familiar with skills per se. They knew they had a degree, it could be a high school degree or a university degree, but what are the skills? So there was a lot of off-platform activities that we deployed in terms of discovery and understanding skills and so on. And with that, the platform itself served as an advisor, and it helped us first to tackle and trace the profile of each individual to create a matching coordination in terms of the taxonomy and so on that we were able to develop in coordination with WCC to finally offer them a gap analysis of how they stand compared with the market. And I have to say the role of the companies were critical. They were the ones that build the standard. What are the skills that are now increasing in the market? What are the skills that are, having their sunrise? All of these type of things we wanted to understand well. And the companies were active as same as the individuals. They were providing information, helping us building the taxonomy, upgrading or downgrading, the different skills that were appearing in the radar. But once that skills gap is defined and the individual know, well, you're great in these skills, but you should probably seek these other skills, the platform will come and refer, supporting programs. So what we call skills development path that was offered to different partners that we had, content providers. We add on the platform over 40 different other providers of content like, Coursera, Udemy, and others. And we were able to combine then different opportunities for individuals to seek the path of a specific skill through the content that was able to provide in terms of content and certification. And then once you complete your process, you start all over. The big idea behind this was actually a cultural change from the perspective of individuals understanding that creating and developing new skill was just a continuous effort if they wanted to remain pertinent in the current, more knowledge-intensive market in which they were playing. So this meant a lot of deep cultural shocks for individuals, like you graduated out of a university, yes, but your title is not the end, it's just the beginning, for example. And you need to understand that you have certain capabilities, but you need to continuously develop more. So that's the reason, the cycle was revolving, and it actually created that reaction in terms of that cultural shift that we were looking for. Now, on that perspective, our key players or our key partners was critical, their experience. And on the other slide, I want to highlight the case of having WCC bringing all its experience and its knowledge, and everyone being very active on the team to basically shift away from the traditional concept of job allocation or job matching to then break it way down to specific skills. So we had a great innovative and creative and willing team at the WCC, which actually they were, basically dedicated to develop actually the national digital platform that we're aiming, but also enabling all of these extra features that were not, the traditional features, the personalized learning paths, to actually offer insights in terms of understanding the labor market, not just from a company per se job posting, but basically from a more broader concept. Actually also, and as I mentioned, they even traveled to Costa Rica, to understand our culture and our context and create, the platform with those, specific nuances that we're actually creating the linkage with our culture itself, and obviously basically helping us with our objective to impact and to bring, the goals of a more, I would say, transparent, providing or promoting equality and inclusion in the labor market that we were seeing shifting in Costa Rica. Now, Fairlac, on the other hand, a very strong technical partner that bring the reality to these objectives in terms of, offering the standards, promoting that ethical and inclusion AI adoptions from day one, which they work very strongly with WCC, to bring practical frameworks that will actually enable us to actually have a strong backbone in terms of that trust building that we were aiming for. Also bringing in account that we had to keep ourselves real in terms of providing and including, high impact sectors that actually was relevant in our ecosystem. And finally, just basically creating that data governance framework where being us, a private organization, coordinating with companies and individuals and having a stakeholder like the government was really relevant for the objective that we pursue. So basically with this support, we launched Future Up. On the next slide, you will see that what we did was actually have the clear objective of creating this platform, which actually add the additional step of offering learning paths to individuals that were co-created with companies, right? It was not just companies showing up and saying, well, these are my new job profiles, but these are the job profiles, and they are assigned to set up different skill set, technical software, lifetime skills, what you name it. And these are the proposals that we validated with the different content providers and the learning path that we were able to offer as suggestion to all our clients on the platform. And I mentioned earlier, maybe the largest or biggest challenge that we faced is just understanding that we were working with people that understood their reality completely different than what we expected, and that there was a need of a cultural change of their understanding of their experience, learning, going back and learn again just to make themselves actually successful in the labor market. So this was something that we, basically were able to develop in coordination with, again, the platform serving as a tool, as also a motivator, but having to develop a lot of different activities, and much more of activities actually happen outside of the platform to actually create the value once the individual steps into FutureUp and do their experience of their learning path. So here is where, we start talking about trendy skills, and we were able not to convey the message. And a byproduct of this is that we saw the difference between multinational companies in the knowledge economy with very digital, aligned skills requirement, with our traditional local Costa Rican companies that were very traditional and contrasting in terms of how they understand talent. And, we had the opportunity to also promote this cultural shock between, companies as well. Now, in that sense, very important then is that at the end of the process, we need to clarify what FutureUp is actually. And on the following slide, what we're going to see there is that first and foremost, it was a platform aimed to provide a better understanding about skills, current skills, and future skills, because we were always, challenging the individual to look further from where I stand today to where I could be. And that's something that was very important in the sense of the type of jobs, opportunity that was being created. The other thing is also, how can we navigate a very personal sense of people and their interests? Yes, I studied to be a liar, but you know what? I'm more a communicator. So, getting all of that cross references for each individual experience was something that FutureUp also accomplished. And again, this ongoing learning path where they need to understand that they were walking with a toolbox, and the more tools they add to that toolbox was actually beneficial for them. So sacrificing, spare time for doing other things instead of being on a platform learning was something that we really need to build very interesting carrots for them to follow. And obviously, in that sense, we wanted also to have everybody become responsible of their own development. It's a sense also of accomplishment. Yes, the gamification and all that, it was there, but also the responsibility that if something happens in their journey as a professional at their work, they're part responsible of, the outcome of that. So that's what we aim. And what we did not aim and we did not do with FutureUp is to actually be a job exchange. Actually, FutureUp is, we have designed a path of experience of our different audiences, and FutureUp is just one stop. Yes, it could be students, it could be someone that is laid off, it could be someone that already have a job or someone retired. And that was the experience that we aimed for. We were not necessarily targeting within FutureUp for them to expect a job, but they were preparing for their experience in a job. We did not offer content, so we were not an LMS. We did not compete with formal education. Actually, we aim to complement, and we partner with several local technical schools, high schools, and even universities for them to see FutureUp as an extension of their activities. And the other thing is that we did not offer any educational work or professional platform as it is. So it was very clear, the niche of the life experience that we wanted to actually offer to those individuals. So basically, what could we say were the success factors of this experience that is ongoing? Working with multinationals, we have found that skills, particularly, is changing on a daily basis, and we have open conversations with individuals on a constant basis when they approach careers, when they approach other learnings, and so on. So for us, FutureUp brought the opportunity to have something in place that was focused on people. We heard companies, yes, but they were the pain bearers of the talent acquisition departments, of the HR department, of the chief people officers that were actually claiming of, the challenges they're facing to find the right talent with the right skills. So we were able to cater to people and their needs and their expectations and so on. The other thing is that we were able also to commit to ourselves to develop a platform that, apart from the buzz of being AI, and remember, we're talking way back 2020. So there's a lot of buzz, uncertainty, and maybe skeptical beliefs around the technology. We were able to actually also convey the message of the ability of the technical teams, like WCC and Fairlock, and even were aimed to remain very true to the quality of the data, but also the development of the trust of the people that we wanted to participate on the platform. But obviously, with AI coming into play and talking about AI, bring to the table an expectation of everyone. All of our stakeholders were expecting, oh, what is AI? What is they going to, magically do? And so we were able to bring within our traditional and very rigid ecosystem, both Ministry of Labor, education, et cetera, all of the ecosystem was very expectant of the impact of this new technology and this innovation that we were able to create. With the need, obviously, not just being expectant, but understanding that, there's a responsibility on both sides. It's not just being responsible in how you treat the data and so on, but the responsibility of well understanding the scope and the reach of an initiative with such, I would say, great aim to impact. We needed a cultural shift of every individual, the ones in the rural area, the ones in the, urban areas, the ones within the university and so on, to understand, what are we talking about when a country has decided to put their growth strategy on the path of connecting with knowledge intense, economy and a very, skill-based ecosystem, to finally end up with another success, I would say, feature that was bringing together all non-traditional collaborations, right? Like academia is on its way, and the government was on its way. Individuals are all on their each path. So bringing everyone together, and it was basically, I would say, the challenging part of it was how could we cater to everyone's expectation on one platform. But that collaboration sense, I think, definitely, made up for much of the challenges that we went through. But like everything, we did face challenges, right? And on the following and last slide, I just want to share some of those. I kind of summarize this in 3 big buckets of challenges. Basically, we needed to earn public trust. And by public trust, I'm talking about individuals, about the companies, about the government, about everyone that were key players in this new model. And particularly understanding how are we going to secure the quality, but also the treatment and the protection of the data that we were receiving, right? We were asking personal questions. We wanted people to describe themselves. We wanted the government to trust that the data that we received was enough to actually help them take strategic, national decisions, things like that. So I think that was it is the strongest, challenge that we faced. Every so on, and the technology has evolved, so everyone has their own perception. And I think, it's very important to understand, how people fathom around AI and manage those, great ideas that they have. But the other thing, again, that is more on the cultural side, and as you could see, the challenges we face was not necessarily from a technical perspective, was just understanding what it means to create a platform that was people-centered in all aspects. And with that, needed to change and make them shift culturally, for them to understand, well, it's not just my degrees, it's now my skills. And I need to start learning on non-traditional platforms and build, a profile or a portfolio of credentials and nano degrees and all of these big concepts that at the time was foreign completely. No one understood. Many times we face that, people would think that we are contradicting the tradition of how people learn. So there was a lot of cultural shift happening as the way that we started testing and deploying the project. And finally, just the fact that we brought AI to the table, it meant a lot of challenges in terms of how many of the existing platforms were going to be able to connect with our platform, for example. We realized that, wow, just adding, all the technology that WCC built within, FutureUp, actually at the beginning was conceived as a silo. Who were going to connect with us if much of the strategy of digitalization in our country was still far beyond, or far behind, I'm sorry. And we had to start building bridges, to the different stakeholders with the expectation that, this could be an objective. We have FutureUp. Let's start build towards how can we connect and how everyone would take advantage and further, the impact of a platform that started and would enable other ideas and other services for our society. So this is what we have done, and this has been our experience. It hasn't been a journey that has ended. Actually, culture takes forever. So we are in that constant, conveying the message, attracting, convincing, reshaping, and using, much of the experience so far, and using some of those success stories that we have accumulated over time for people to start, and people and institution and organization become comfortable with the objective of building a stronger tool for the benefit of everyone. So I really appreciate this space, and hopefully it was a interesting case for you to learn about.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Really great. Another example from a third state country for implementing really people-centered and responsible AI. Also very early, I understand, already started with this in 2019. And yeah, you said something really important, means a lot of culture shift and building trust, and going from the traditional job matching then to highlighting skills within the labor market. So thank you so much, Vanessa. Yeah, so we have a couple of minutes left, and we would like really to go into the final Q&A session together with all of you guys, and I give the word over to you, Deville.
Thanks. Yeah, so we really can only pick up a few of the questions, but Razi, I would like to ask you to answer one of them. So Uruguay actually has limitations when they are trying to implement AI systems in PES, where the servers are located outside of the country, which can compromise use of personal and sensitive data. And I know Malaysia also has that restriction that the data has to be in the country. So could you just quickly explain how you guys overcome that challenge?
First of all, actually most of our data is local, so we don't really need to have our data sourced from outside. But even in Malaysia, right, it's not even in the country also, for a government agency, actually in Malaysia, it's very restricted even to have a local cloud. If even we want to keep our data at the local cloud also, it's not possible. Everything must be in-prem. So actually that's a difficult answer, because the fundamental of the data being outside the country is actually the biggest stumbling block, actually, because you have to solve why it's not in the country in the first place, right?
Yeah. Do you have anything to add, Alexander, to overcome this challenge?
Yes, so there are various solutions to this. So indeed, what you've done in Malaysia is more or less local. So you can, sometimes it's still allowed in some countries to have, for instance, to have it in the cloud, but still have it in the region. So to make sure that's not outside of the EU, for instance, or specific other regions in the world. That's a possibility. having a sort of a private cloud, but then, for instance, AWS Outpost. So you actually host the hardware yourself and then have it managed by AWS type of controls. So there are various solutions to that, but that's just about your data and you still being in full control of the data. However, when you talk about sending your data to software as a service AI, so for instance, sending it to OpenAI to start using ChatGPT, that's where you need to have all your checks and balances in place, because you shouldn't send your sensitive data to all kinds of cloud servers that you don't even know are hosted exactly where, or you already know that they're not hosted in Uruguay or wherever they are. So you have to be very mindful about that. Where do you send your data? And if you use a service that is outside of your country, be very careful of what data you send there to begin with.
We have a question for Vanessa as well, but also I would like maybe Razi, you to add. What do you do in terms of marketing strategies or other strategies to convince people to use the platform? There was also a previous question where they are struggling with the volume of vacancy data to be able to do an efficient job matching. So could you please both answer?
Yes, more than happy. So marketing is very wide in the sense of how we approach. We have segmented, the talent that we are aiming to attract to FutureUp. And for example, because it's a skill platform, not a jobs platform, we cater to the entire high school system. So we work directly with the Ministry of Education in many cases, and we actually offer it to complement the learning of the students at the high school, so they could have these paths, these learning paths. If we're talking about now actually the labor market, because we do a lot of job fairs and we are reaching out constantly through other tools, we complement each other. So when we talk about a job fair, FutureUp is there, so on. So we do not necessarily commercials and things like that, or not even TikTok, which everyone is recommending us. We actually do it much more where we are able to face-to-face interact and have, the right communication and the learning opportunity on the platform itself.
Thank you, Vanessa. Razi, just a few words.
With regards to the job matching, right?
Yeah, to the vacancy data, indeed. How do you keep up that the volumes are still so high?
Actually, when we deal with vacancy, the first thing that you have to, if you have high volume, right? Actually, the first thing that you have to check is whether the vacancy is valid. So the way for you to check, there are multiple ways for you to filter out whether it's a what we call it, maybe a genuine vacancy, or it's just employers just popping up their advertisement in the portal. So we have certain rules. Actually, we don't use AI. Actually, we just set certain rules and look at patterns. So because we have also our Pekeso have data on the size of the company. So actually, we can actually see the logic, right? If the company is a medium size, then if it shows vacancy for a few hundreds, right? Then we know it's maybe it's just playing around with numbers. The employers sometimes do this. I don't know why, actually. So we have set some rules for our employment officers on how to handle this type of vacancies. Okay.
Thank you, Razi. I will give back to Nicole to just quickly wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for questions.
Thank you so much for your expertise. Really, really great that we could do this together. So I'm very happy. We need to wrap up because we have the limited time and we have had a 2-hour discussion. So I'm very much thanking you. So it really concludes also the webinar together, building the digital path to responsible AI for public employment services, together with WAPES and WCC and all our great experts here and the best practice examples. Just want to thank every one of you in the audience because I know you have been all coming from different time zones, also the interpreters and also our technical assistants of today running this very smoothly. Recordings, links, and slides will be shared with you afterwards. And we also have lots of questions and a lot of interest in this. We will be answering this later. We'll promise to get back to you. Sorry, I apologize, but this is always a little bit limited, but we will get it to you out. So please, if you want to stay in touch with us, with WCC or with WAPES, please connect with us. You know all of our channels. And we would be super grateful if you could, in the end, fill out this survey and tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, because we know there is always room for improvement. So thank you so much. This concludes the session. We hope you have a lovely day, night, or afternoon ahead of you, wherever you might be. Thank you.